Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Anna Belfiore-Delfaus, City Council
Good
candidate
morning.
for District 47. So you
How are
are.
you?
Yesterday we had. I'm so happy to see you. We met some 2 weeks ago, I believe, and we agreed to have a stream because I see as my mission not just to tell people about bad things, but also good things that are happening in this country and in this town. And I believe you are something good that's about to happen. You're a candidate, a Republican, a woman of faith, and you're running in the District 47 that has a pretty significant Russian-speaking component. So that's the audience of this channel. And I welcome everybody. Друзья, всех приветствую, кто живет в 47-м округе. Мы говорим по-английски в этой программе, но Анна Белфиори-Дельфаус — это тот человек, который идет против Ари Кагана, демократа, который долгое время представлял нас, и, в общем, мы знаем, как это все выглядит. Он переобулся, он стал республиканцем. И сейчас перед нами человек, который бескомпромиссно исповедует те же взгляды, что и мы с вами. Мы республиканцы, и наш голос очень нужен, и наш голос должен быть отдан Анне Бельфиоре Дель Фаус, 47-й дистрикт. So, back to English. Anna, were you born in New York?
I was born in New York. I'm the daughter of immigrants. My parents came from Italy, so uh, I appreciate you having me on when it comes to the multi-language aspect. I was listening to you, and when you switched over to Russian and said my name in Russian, it sounded so much better. Loved it.
You know how many Russian Italian words made it into Russian language? It's amazing. When I
Really?
was in Italy, I was surprised. I've been to Italy a number of times. It's a lovely country, and the next place I feel at home is Rome, and I've been to Sicily even twice. Are you family from
Oh,
Sicily?
Sicily. So my mother is from a small town right outside the city of Palermo.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's Sicily is just breathtaking to me. I mean, I may be biased, and a lot of people don't visit Sicily when they go to Italy. They tend to visit the northern cities more
Mm-hmm.
because that's the more touristy place to go. But to me, Sicily is one of the most beautiful places on earth for sure. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I've been to Sicily numerous times. I can't even tell you how many times, of course. So
Give me the name of the town before we go to our American business.
sure, it's called Torretta.
Torretta. No,
Yeah.
I haven't been there.
Oh, no, it's probably a population of, I think last time I checked was
10.
between 5 or 7,000 people.
Oh,
So very small town. But believe it or not, a lot of the immigrants from that live in, especially in Brooklyn, are from that town. So
wow.
yeah, yeah.
No, we'll talk about Sicily. We'll have time. So, I Heart New York is something that you see on every corner in every part of the world. Frankly, but we love New York. We are here. And what's your favorite part? Why do you like New York? What do you like New York for?
What do I like New York for? New York is so unique in the sense that you can call yourself American, but yet you can so strongly maintain your roots wherever you go throughout the city. And in every little alcove, every little, down every little neighborhood, you'll find somebody that is similar to you. And it might sound narrow-minded, but I actually feel that it's nice because it's a way to celebrate your culture. And that something that really makes New York so unique is the accessibility to so many different cultures. So I think New York is just a fascinating place. You grow up with a little more street smarts than you would elsewhere, but it keeps you humble knowing that you're just one in such a major city, but every person makes a difference. And I just think that the exposure and the experience you get growing up in a city as this is something that you really cannot find anywhere else. It's so unique. And as big as our city is, and as diverse as it is, I think we still have such a warmth and hospitality about ourselves that a lot of people don't understand. And a lot of tourists say when they come to New York, they expect a very cold type of person. But real, true New Yorkers, people who spent a lot of time here, being raised here, living here, they have something about them that is a different quality of humanity that you won't find somewhere else. So I happen to love New York.
Yeah, that's why we connect, I guess. It takes a certain kind of person to love New York as a permanent resident, so to speak, not as a tourist.
Correct.
And what do you think is going on in our city now? What made you go into politics? I guess that's those two things are connected.
So, what's going on in our city is obvious. There has been radical policies taking over in government. And I think it boils down to trends. I think a lot of people want to be trendy and follow what's cool and what's acceptable at this moment. And unfortunately, when you're making tough decisions and good decisions for the future, you can't go based on what's cool at the moment. You have to really dig deep and find within yourself what you truly believe is right and just. And that's how you should be making decisions based on how to shape our city for the future. So I have three little kids that attend public school. I am a New York City public school special education teacher also by trade. I've been home the last few years on maternity leave, and I see what's going on within the system, and it's very upsetting. I'm the first in my family to graduate college. I have my two master's degrees. To me, education was crucial. It was just a staple in my upbringing. And I know a lot of people can resonate with that, education is just very important. And I was lucky enough to have gifted and talented programs um, at my back. That's what helped shape my educational career. And now we're seeing that the politicians are trying very hard to remove the gifted and talented, the specialized high schools, so many things going on. And we need to kind of bring the focus back on the individual student. The politicians are trying to lump the students all into one category in the name of equality, but it's actually hurting the students more than anything, because you have the higher functioning students who are becoming bored and they're not motivated. And you have the special ed students that need so much support, and they need, special services to help boost them, that are also not being offered the way they should be. And we're just creating a big mess, and it's not fair, because if we tackled the education system correctly, we would have so many more prospering students, and these students are the future of our city. We don't have a future in New York City if we don't have competitive students that are well prepared for the future. And I'm not saying just to create doctors and lawyers, but we need people in the trades, and there's so many different jobs that need to be fulfilled. And if kids are not feeling motivated in school, they're not going to go out into the workforce with the same motivation.
I'm sorry, it must be the smoke that's coming to us. That's my eyes are
Okay.
leaky.
It's bad. It's not, it's bad. It was
Yeah,
really
it's
intense. Yeah.
amazing how it gotten to us. But let me ask you this: let's still go to business of this whole fixing this thing as much as we can, because our resources, whoever we are, Eric Adams's resources are limited. But the main thing is to do the right thing, right? Whatever we can do, we should do, and not expect miracles. Expect the results from little actions, one by one, every day, tirelessly, dropping and drip, 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 gets done. What do you think? School choice, school vouchers, is it part of the answer for what's would fix the what ails us in
So,
schools?
this may be the unpopular decision, the unpopular idea, but we're very fortunate on our side of Brooklyn to have very good schools. Okay. The districts in our the school districts that we have are strong. We have good schools, we have good administrators. I think the focus needs to start way lower than that. I think we need to start with building the system back into what we know works. And I think if we just start trying, you can't slap random solutions onto what is wrong. We need to really boil it down and take a look at what the problem is and fix the problem from the bottom. It's like if you have a headache, you can treat the symptom with a ibuprofen, but what is causing that headache? So I'm more of a believer of fixing the foundation rather than creating new buildings around a crumbling system. So we have to go back to what I call heterogeneous grouping and homogeneous grouping in classrooms, where we have kids on the same learning level in the same classroom. We've moved into a model where it's heterogeneous grouping, where you have lower struggling kids with higher functioning kids in the same classroom, and it's quite impossible to get them functioning on the same level. They say that the higher functioning students should model for the struggling students, and I don't believe that. I think the teacher is the model in the classroom, and when you can target everybody at the same level, it's just common sense. You can move everybody up as much as possible. I think we need to take a thorough look at the system, and nobody ever mentions that. Nobody ever mentions where is all the money going that is being poured into the DOE. New York City spends roughly, I think we're at approximately $33,000 or $34,000 per student. It might be a little bit higher per student. If I paid $35,000 a year tuition for my kids to go to school, they would be in a beautiful preparatory school. But the matter of fact is the money that actually makes it to the students after all the red tape and all the bureaucracy is probably $5,000 per year, which is nothing. Teachers are paying for supplies out of their pocket. There's years sometimes that I would set up my classroom that I was out thousands of dollars buying supplies because it was not provided. And there's something fundamentally wrong with where the system is headed. So school choice, school vouchers, great, but why don't we fix the problem? We have the schools, we have the teachers. New York City public school teachers are some of the most educated teachers we could find. They have master's degrees. Some of them have 2 master's degrees, so much experience. Teaching in New York City is not like teaching anywhere else. You get a lot of experience. You're dealing with a lot of different learning styles, kids that come from different cultures, language barriers. So we need to fix the root of the problem, not try to build new systems around it. So I think if we can address that fundamentally, and no candidate ever brings that up, we would see that we have a thriving system. We just need to get back to where it was. Because when I was growing up, the public schools were amazing in this part of Brooklyn.
Yeah, but nobody has the. It's maybe an unpopular opinion, but very few people have the guts to fight woke trends in schools. And we don't hear from a lot of teachers about what's going on in schools because they think that the CRT and other fads that are upon us they could be fixed from inside. So the thinking behind the school vouchers, it's a little bit Trump-esque, it's a threat. It's something ambiguous, how they call it, strategic ambiguity. So people will get the money, new schools will open, good teachers who are tired of dealing with what's going on in public schools today. And you're talking about good schools. And bad schools is what is prevailing, unfortunately, from what I hear in the news. I mean, not prevailing. I love teaching. I love teachers to do. And I think teaching is fantastic. The greatest people in the history of the world, from Aristotle and up Plato, they were all teachers. And so that's the thing. So under that threat, there may be a chance to reform the system that exists today. Because other than that, more money, more good money after bad money, being thrown at the problem. And loudmouths get a lot of funding.
The problem is good schools, bad schools. The majority of teachers are good, and I'm not saying it biasedly. I've been in a lot of school buildings when I did my student teaching. We observed schools throughout the city. In the beginning, I was a substitute. I was I went through all different schools. I went through very low income buildings. I went to gifted and talented buildings. I've been all over the city. And I think the problem is something that a lot of people don't realize. There is a lack of structure and consequence in the public school system when it comes to the students and their work ethic. So for example, people say charter schools, and the reason why charter schools function is because they apply consequences if their rules are not followed. If the student is not doing their homework, if the student is not behaving, if the student is not, applying themselves in an appropriate manner, there's a consequence. In the public school, we've created an environment of the student is always right. I have students that have never submitted a single homework in the 180 days that they're in school. Parents are not involved. the culture surrounding education is taboo. Education is not important. Uh, my students particularly come from very difficult home situations, and education is not a priority. And what they're seeing at home, they're bringing into the classroom. And how can you possibly teach kids fractions and time and history when they have so much more going on in their minds? And homework is not being done, tests are not being studied for, and it's the scores end up being a reflection of the teacher, and it's not necessarily so. I may be considered a underperforming teacher in a school where the culture of education is not embraced, and then I can go to a gifted and talented school, and all of a sudden I am the most amazing teacher because I have students that are so high functioning and that are dedicated to their educational career. So it's controversial, but there's other things going on. It's not so much the failing schools. Are there failing schools because of failing administrators and failing teachers? Of course, but it's not as prevalent as people think. I think we, as a society, we are very split down the middle. We have a culture that either completely embraces education, or we have culture that just doesn't care. And it's unfortunately, the schools have created an environment that students are not accountable and parents are not accountable for the educational career. And unfortunately, if you have a child in a public school, you are just as accountable for their educational career as they are for themselves. They're babies. They still need that upbringing. They still need that structure to know. Does a parent need to be a complete scholar and know exactly what their child is doing? No, but the structure needs to be set where education is important. You need to come home, you need to study, and if you need help, we will get you help.
Let me ask you a broader question, because it's our first meeting and we want to cover more ground, and then we'll figure out the corners and other parts. And I thank you for your for your insight and for your keeping up the fight. Because we fight with what we have, and we have the schools. Of course, we got to try and reform. It's just that common opinion is that it's unreformable, like so many things in our lives, and they have to be started from ground up. Who's your favorite president in the history of the United States?
My favorite president. I would have to say Ronald Reagan, and for a very simple reason. I believe in being diplomatic when it comes to politics, and being and having a certain way of not to discount any other president. There are other presidents that I love, but Reagan would be who I'd model myself most after, because I feel that him and I have parallels with the way we present ourselves, with the way we speak, and just I think his general enthusiasm. But that to me is, I would say, the president that I would relate to most.
Yeah, except the times have changed, and we don't have William F. Buck anymore to discuss, to enunciate, to ask long questions. But nevertheless, I would ask you a question that William F. Buckley asked Ronald Reagan when they met before the elections. What would be the first thing you would do when elected to the City Council of New York and sitting next to our Ina Vernikov? Because I live in her district.
The first thing besides turn to Ina and give her a hug and a kiss
Yeah.
is, I would, my focus is going to be education. That's going to be number one. We have to tackle the educational system, because when we're basically bringing up these kids in an unsuccessful environment. A lot of these kids are turning to gang violence very young. If there's no enthusiasm for school, there's no work ethic enthusiasm. So for me, the first, really, I'm going to dive head first into education. That's where I'm strongest. That's where I have the most experience. And I see how, kids having a lack of enthusiasm for education they end up being the criminals that go back on the street. So in order to start fixing this quality of life issue that we have, and this public safety issue that we have to start raising kids in a system that show them that, work ethic is important. Love for your city is important. So that's definitely head first going into education.
Absolutely, because New York has to become a city that is associated with high knowledge, high skills, Today, unfortunately, it's not the case, and not just because of the politics and policies that put homeless and crazy and criminal people on our streets. It is just something else, some cultural shift that we have. And the New York today is, like, I believe in history going in circles. We see it in Russia and some in our American lives. And when I read about this story, about the rat Tsar designated rats to fight rats in New York, that you need a Tsar. So in a republic, in constitutional republic of the United States, we in the city of New York, we have a rat Tsar, and it's a lady, and I wish her every luck. But it made me think of the ancient German city of Hameln, when they invited a rat catcher. Remember the story that
The
to,
rat
to, to
catcher.
lead the rats out of to get rid of the rats, and they didn't pay the. So he brought his a little flute out, and he played the tune to which he led all the kids out of the city, and no one ever found them. It's an old German tale that became like a metaphor for something, and that's very, very timely to me. So I
Eh,
think that it's. What do you tell me about the district? Tell us all about the district that you're running in, the neighborhoods, so people would know if they live there. I have a couple of people, I think, who are from your district listening right now, and so they would
Fantastic.
spread the word and lead people to this video, so people would take a look. And of course, friends, don't forget, вы можете включить субтитры здесь русские, и я надеюсь, что они сделают свою работу, переведут. И если у вас будут вопросы, я буду рад ответить на них по-русски. So, the neighborhoods.
So the neighborhoods, I have to start by saying, before I even get into the neighborhoods, in the beginning, when I was with my volunteers getting signatures to, for the petitions to get onto the ballot, I met a lot of Russian speaking people in the community. And I have to say, honestly, hands down, the Russian speaking community is the most informed when it comes to politics. And I think because it's so fresh on your mind, you know what bad politics looks like, and you know what good politics looks like. A lot of people have experienced both, the bad being back at home and the good being here up until recently. So the Russian speaking community just completely impressed me when I met them collecting signatures. I was so happy and relieved to see that there are still people that care, that understand, and that are well informed. So I have to give a lot of credit where it's due. Unfortunately, the way they redid the district is a little bit crazy, and it's so hard to explain, and it's hard to figure out who lives in the district because the lines are so zigzag and complicated. But
Especially
basically,
this corridor between the Brighton Beach area and the Bay Ridge area.
yes, it's a very diverse district. We start in Bay Ridge. It has the majority of Bay Ridge. Then there's a small section of Diker Heights, and it connects down into Bath Beach by one block. And then it's about half of Bath Beach, the side that hugs the shoreline, down into the lower part of Cropsey, and then basically Coney Island and Seagate. And for some reason, I have the boardwalk all the way up until Brighton. I think it was 9, but just the beach area. So it's the lines are crazy. I do have 2 of the Warbass buildings in my district. The way they did the lines is really wild. It's very hard we have to look at the maps, figure out if your address fits. It's not where you have a general idea. You really have to study and examine the maps. But that's basically the new district.
Anna, I'm so happy we have this meeting. We had this day. I heard from you more than I heard for my 20 years living in New York from Ari Kagan.
Well,
More thoughts and more emotions and more feelings about the area. Eric Hagan is your competitor, and I salute your fiery attitude to the idea of running and helping to rebuild the city, to return us to our glory. And I think we deserve it. We have to take up the tools that we have, our wonderful American democracy, the chance to vote. whatever people say about the process of voting these days, and the news are not very encouraging, but it's a physical work. You have to get up, you have to go to vote, you have to fill out the ballot, and you have to vote Republican down the line, and that would include Anna Belfiore-Delfaus, our candidate, your candidate, my friends, our great Republican candidate for the city council, and let's build the council stronger and better, and soon too.
And soon.
Anna, thank you so very much. Thank you so very
Thank
much,
you.
and
I appreciate you having me on this morning, and I hope I answered all your questions.
ready to continue anytime.
All right, thank you.
До свидания, друзья. Всего вам доброго, до встречи сегодня вечером.